Hey, what's up, guys? Little man with a big opinion here. I've got some prepper news for you. Uh, and I am apologizing now because I'm a little bit behind the curve on some of this news. Uh, but combining these two into one video will be beneficial just because, the information that I had for you for the first video that I could have given out if I would have kept up with the news enough for the first video only would have been a couple of minutes, and then the second part a couple more minutes. But it does involve the trucker strike going on, and it ties a little bit into the prepping video I did earlier today, talking about inflation, hitting close to home, what I've kept up with when it comes to inflation for the things that I purchase that many Americans purchase. It went into effect January 22nd. Today's the 26th. So, like I said, a little bit behind, but the United States made it to where Mexican truckers and Canadian truckers could not enter the United States, for load pickups and stuff, unless they were fully vaccinated. From my understanding, they are still sitting at fully vaccinated is your 2 shots and your booster, or your J&J shot and a booster. And they haven't updated it to, a 4th shot or whatnot. And this does come after the United Kingdom or Great Britain. I forget which one it is these days. And we're having a stare down over here. Jesus. I'm pretty sure the lady that was just supposed to go across, she was supposed to go and she was playing on her phone. All 3 of us decided to try to go at the same time. That was interesting. Luckily, I'm not from this town that I'm going through, so maybe she wouldn't recognize me. But, so in some instances, we still are seeing a push for vaccines, where in other instances, OSHA just said that they're officially removing their vaccine mandate for large businesses over 100 and federal workers. Even though I'm pretty sure that the SCOTUS reply, or the Supreme Court of the United States, they sent down their ruling like 2 weeks ago. But bureaucratic red tape probably taking that long. But I'm getting off topic here. The first bit of information was the United States making it a mandatory requirement for the truckers of those 2 countries. And I didn't look up research for the amount of imports and exports that the United States sends to Mexico. I imagine most of it does come out of, trucks and trains instead of, putting it on a boat and sending it to that country. Same thing with Canada. I mean, we have a much vaster border with Canada than Mexico. But in my previous video, and if you haven't watched it, I'm going to do a little recap. It was either 55 or 65% of Canadians live within 75 miles of the United States border. So it's hard to quantify in the state of Texas, saying I'm driving 50 miles. That could be just your daily drive to work, or that's your drive to get to the big city to do your, certain shopping. The town I live in is like 6,000 or 7,000 people. We are not big enough for a Best Buy. The closest Best Buy is like 35 miles away. So any electronic buying, we have to go that distance. Um, so there are a large portion of Canadians that, and Americans that live close to that border, um, they do a lot of traveling back and forth because they could work in that country. Their entertainment could be in that country. Where they do their shopping could be in that country. It just depends. That 50 miles is a relatively short distance for a lot of people. Uh, that being said, the new information that I did see today is truckers are coming from all over the United States and Canada to continue to back up border crossings. The wait times are tripling and quadrupling, not just for commerce, but just for regular everyday people going back and forth. The newest number I've seen for the amount of truckers involved in the protests is at 50,000. When I previously put the information out, the numbers were between 20 and 30,000, but it has since, doubled in one case or nearly doubled in the other case. So it's a pretty big deal. Without getting into, the politics of it, because, I don't think prepping should be political. I think an atheist and a Christian and a liberal and a Democrat and all of these different ideologies can all be preppers. I just think certain aspects of prepping can be political. But from the economic side, your financial pocketbook, I imagine this has a lot more ramifications for people close within that area. The shadows I got going on with the sun right now are awful. I imagine it's hitting them, a lot closer. If you've never heard a prepper say the saying that we live in a just-in-time delivery system, part of that system is the barcode system telling your exact store what they need. Part of that system is the warehouse employees that load up the trailers to bring those specific goods. And then, the third part of that is the individual trucker that takes those goods anywhere from, 40, 50 miles from, one major city to the next, or hundreds, if not thousands of miles, because some truckers, have those massive several day loads that they take. And right now, I'm just going to use Walmart as an example. I'm not privy on if they're requiring, a vaccine, and I'm not privy if the warehouses are requiring it. But if any one of those three systems fails, then it hurts all of us. If there's no one at the warehouse to load up the trucks, the truckers, they technically could load it, but for one, it's not in their job description. They're not, hired by that company, so there's probably labor laws involved. Because they can only drive for a certain amount of time every day. And that means if the warehouse workers aren't there, they can't put supplies on trucks to go to your big box store. If the trucker isn't there, but the big box store and the warehouse people are there, the supplies aren't moving either. And then if your Walmart employees aren't there, then they can't stock the shelves. And I would make the joke of, checking you out, but for the most part, you've got a machine that you check yourself out with. So any part of that system fails, and on a good day, 72 hours later, you're going to be out of supplies. At worst, it's going to be 24 hours. So, that being said, 50,000 truckers, it's a little bit more than a drop in the bucket. So, it could be the reason why in my inflation video, certain goods around me have gone up. Because the most recent article I read, these truckers, it's not just, an area effect. It's just like, when a soldier dies or commits suicide, that might happen in Kentucky, but the soldiers in Texas and Washington State and California, and even those, stationed overseas in other countries, thousands of miles away, it affects all of them. They all feel responsible for it. They all feel like, there's something we can do. They all mourn together. And it's like that with a lot of jobs. Truckers, it's the same way. If you are someone that is a trucker in the state of Texas, maybe you don't go north all that often. Your long loads take you east and west and maybe up to the Midwest states. But the northern states, it's not a problem for you. But it's a problem for, fellow people in your shoes. So you take offense to it, and they could be going up there in solidarity. They could be saying, if I ever moved and that was in my area, I don't want that to be an issue for me. Just whatever the reason, 50,000 truckers is a big deal. And the fact that it's not just American truckers, it's also Canadian truckers. And I haven't seen much on the Mexican side of things. I don't know of any bottlenecks going on at the U.S.-Mexico border. But, there are other issues pertaining to that border. So as a prepper, the biggest thing that I've been telling you is, stack to the rafters, become self-sufficient on your own. And the new advice that I follow for some things that I just haven't been mentioning for you guys is shop local. So if you're worried about, your meat at your Walmart because it's not there, I guarantee you your meat's at, your local meat market. Or you probably know someone that does butchering. And if you don't know these kind of people, when the grid is up and running, this is how you make those connections, you make these friends. Because, if crap hits the fan, the more well-connected you are, the more people you can count on as a friend, the better off you'll be. The faster things can get back to some, relative sense of normal. That being said, I've had extensive conversations with the guy in my area that makes his own raw honey from bees in our area. And, just slightly going down a rabbit hole, it does help with your allergies because the bees are pollinating flowers and plants in your area. So if you're allergic to stuff in your area, it can help with that. But you should extend that even further. I got the contact information today. The way the guy was described is he's 400 years old. And he does a lot of the leather work for people with horses around here and other people that do ranching and farming stuff. And then how he supplements his income, he makes holsters and leather goods. But this guy that has a skill that benefits other people, he's made all of these connections with people that if the grid goes down, his job isn't, the most important job, but it's a pretty important job to have. and he's got the connections with people that can, you know, keep him going. And he provides a service, they provide a service, and when the grid goes down, I don't think money is exchanged. I think it's, you know, barter and trade. So I got to get in, talk with him. I want to get a holster for a pistol and my lever action. I don't know when I'll get that, but when I get it, I'll show it to you, y'all. But making the connections, shopping local, it may be a bit more expensive because it's not the big, you know, multinational corporation doing it. But you know where your beef comes from, you know where your eggs come from, you know what is going in your body, you know where it comes from. And with that, I'll say it again, stacked to the rafters, it's your food safety net. I can say this, you know, people do the same thing with income. That's why we have savings accounts, for those rainy day issues. Your fiat currency will only get you so far. You know, as much as it'd be amazing to have $40,000 in a savings account, I'd rather have $10,000 in a savings account and a few years of food stacked away and water storage and security beads. And then the last thing I got for you is to stay hyper vigilant. On the trucker vax mandate thing, I'm a few days behind. The newest thing I've seen on this protest strike, that article came out today. But if you're hyper vigilant, you're paying attention to the news, you're sifting through and finding the stuff that pertains to preppers, then you're setting yourself up for success. Because I'd rather know, you know, crap's gonna hit the fan 2 hours rather than when it's hit me in the face, or 2 days versus 2 hours. And you know, obviously we'd love to know as far in advance as possible, but you know, we get what we get and we don't throw a fit. But part of that is being hyper vigilant, paying attention to the news. And if you're not paying attention to the news, then trusting the articles that I read and the information I am disseminating onto you, you know, you can believe it. And with most of these videos, I put the article in the description down below. That way, you can read it for yourself if you'd like to. But some of it's filler to meet the column length. Sometimes different political organizations, they put bias in it. Like one of the articles, they were like, you know, the U.S. has this vax mandate on, you know, these truckers, but Canada had it first. So we're just following along with their lead. I think that is useless information as it pertains to a prepper. But that's just my example, and in future videos, you know, I cut out as much bias as I can, and I try to stay pretty neutral with my videos. But this one's getting too long. Like the video if you haven't heard about this stuff or you like my take on it. Subscribe to the channel if you like what I'm doing. And then once you do subscribe, hit the little bell, because you never know where I'm going to release a video. I could release 5 news-related videos in one day, or I could release one and then just our regular scheduled prepping video. The last thing I'll say, and I'll put it in the description down below, is I talked about, you know, my personal level inflation, what is going up for certain things that I buy that are probably going up for you. And so you should check that video out as well. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.